like your ass, you're gonna fucking sniff it.
This horror film unfolds with a series of events that turn disturbing pretty quickly. The coach of the football team, Mr. Joe Willis, angrily orders everyone off the field and throws a bench in frustration. During his tantrum, he encounters someone mysterious. Later that day, the school principal, Mrs. Drake, holds a meeting with 3 teachers to discuss the school budget. When the meeting concludes, Mrs. Drake goes back for her keys. While looking for her keys, she hears a door creaking in the distance. Suddenly, Coach Willis appears behind her. He starts acting strange, flirting with her and asking for a pencil. Mrs. Drake, to get it over with, gives him a pencil from her table. Mr. Willis takes the pencil and pierces it through Mrs. Drake's hand, causing her immense pain. Mrs. Drake manages to escape, scratching Mr. Willis's face. When she tries to escape, all the doors are chain-locked. In the hallway, she encounters drama teacher Mrs. Olson, who tells Mrs. Drake that she has no key. She decides to go back for the key, ultimately locking Mr. Willis inside. What unfolds next is scary, as Mrs. Olson chillingly uses scissors to stab the principal multiple times until she collapses. The following day, students arrive at school as usual. Among them are Zeki, an intelligent yet rebellious student, Casey, a short guy in the school newspaper photographer, Stokely, the emo girl, Stan, a football player, Delilah, the cheerleader and newspaper editor, and Mary Beth, a transfer student. Casey discovers a strange creature on the grass and takes it to Professor Furlong for examination. Professor Furlong, being a curious guy, finds out that it's a parasite found only in sea creatures. Delilah accidentally spills water all over the table, including the parasite, and revives it with water. Professor Furlong, finding this fascinating, drops it into a fish tank. It starts to swim, and tentacles protrude from its body. He then takes it a step further by putting his hand in to touch it, and it multiplies into 2, displaying menacing teeth and biting him. Professor Furlong decides to call the university. In the pool area while Stan is showering, a disheveled-looking Mrs. Brommel suddenly appears, claiming she can't breathe. Stan is utterly horrified to find her in the men's shower. However, because of her antics, he takes pity on her and pats her on the head to calm her down. To his disgust, her head's skin falls off. Casey sees this and is told to tell the principal about the situation. The drama teacher from earlier tells the boys that Mrs. Brommel is undergoing cancer treatment, which causes disorientation. Stan accepts this lousy excuse. However, Casey gets suspicious as he notices Mr. Willis on the field standing stoically under the sprinklers. Inside the school, Delilah and Casey sneak into the teacher's room to find hot topics for the school newspaper. They see shadows outside the door and hide. The coach and the drama teacher walk in, along with Nurse Harper, after which Mrs. Olson locks the door. To their horror, Mr. Willis attacks Nurse Harper, turning her into an alien by pinning her down on the couch and spitting a parasite into her ear. Casey and Delilah witness this and at the same time also encounter the dying corpse of Mrs. Brommel where they are hiding. Delilah and Casey flee, running into Mrs. Drake and Mr. Tate in the hallway. They tell the teachers what happened, but the teachers seem indifferent. The two realize that all the teachers have turned to escape. The next day, Casey returns to the school with his parents and 2 police officers. The policeman checks the cabinet where Nurse Harper is, but finds a doll instead. They had taken the corpse away, Casey realizes. Casey later notices that Mrs. Drake has infected the policeman. In fear for his parents' safety, Casey pretends to admit to having a mental problem and has his parents leave. Casey meets Delilah the next morning, who has changed up her looks in the hallway. They hide in the bathroom stalls as they hear the principal call students to her office, including Delilah, who is being pursued. Delilah tells Casey that she's looking for Stan. In the faculty office, the teachers act strangely, turning on the air conditioning and stacking the room with water. Meanwhile, Mary Beth and Zeki take a walk on campus and notice the slow, unemotional students. Out of nowhere, Mrs. Burke confronts Zeki for selling illegal substances and wreaks havoc. Usually she is calm, and they find it strange that she has transformed into a violent person. In the library, Casey tells Stokely, the emo girl, about the teachers being controlled by aliens. Although Stokely is skeptical, she finds the topic intriguing. The group reunites with Delilah and Stan in the hallway. They enter the biology classroom to look for the parasite in the tank and find it missing. Hearing them talk about aliens through the vent, Mary Beth and Zeki join to make jokes. Professor Furlong enters the room, and when the students tell him about the situation, his demeanor changes. Zeki senses trouble and tries to run, but the biology teacher stops him. He does the same to Casey and Delilah. Zeki takes a blade from the paper cutter and chops off Mr. Furlong's fingers, and a brawl ensues. They realize that Furlong has also been infected. Casey preserves a finger in a jar for proof. Zeki is quick on his feet and stabs the professor in the eye with a pen full of drugs. The professor appears to die. They flee from the scene, and the group quickly realizes that the aliens have infected all the students. They jump into Ziggy's car and drive away. At Ziggy's house, they decide to test the parasite's vulnerability to drugs. The parasite dehydrates and dies when they put dry powder on it. Stokely shares her theory that killing the alien leader will release and return the infected to normal. Zeki suggests that they all take the drug to check for infection. Delilah is reluctant to try it, but once she does, she reveals herself as an alien, and the others prepare to kill her. However, she escapes. The group rushes back to the school to look for the Queen, where everybody is gathered for a football game. At the football field, Stokely guesses that Principal Drake, in charge of everything, is the Queen alien. They lure her into the gym and trap her with a net, and Mary Beth, loaded with drugs, kills her. Stan goes out to check if everyone is back to normal and sees Coach Willis, now in alien form, standing in the rain with the team. They did not die. Stan informs the group and they ask him to take the drug, but they realize he's also an alien. He spills all the drugs, prompting the group to leave. Zeki says that there might be more drugs in his car, and he and Casey decide to go to Zeki's car to get more drugs. They find the football team there and create a distraction. Back at the gym, Mary Beth talks to Stokely, seemingly siding with the aliens. Stokely looks back at her in confusion. Only Mary Beth reveals herself as the Queen alien. Mary Beth admits to not taking the drug, and Zeki tries to stab her, but Stokely stops him. She reveals herself as an alien too. Casey pushes her and locks her in a room. Zeki orders Casey to take the drug to confirm he's not an alien, and Casey does. They flee from the Queen, but the Queen catches Zeki and throws him over the lockers. Casey takes the pen and stabs the Queen, but the Queen spits in Casey's face, infecting him with the parasite. Fortunately, Stokely's theory turns out to be true, because when the Queen died, the other parasites also died. 1 month later, things have gone back to normal. Zeki joins the football team, Stan and Stokely become a couple, Casey is with Delilah, and although the FBI denies the alien presence, it's safe to say that they won't be taking in a parasite to examine anytime soon. So guys, that's the movie. What did you think of it? Let us know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.